The coat was heavy when I lifted it from the chair, heavier than it should have been. Seo Kong-jun never cared about details. He left his ties on the sofa, his shoes half-kicked under the table, his life scattered in careless fragments that I quietly picked up behind him. That morning was no different. I was just doing what I always did, cleaning after a man who had stopped seeing me. Something slipped from the inner pocket and fluttered to the floor. A white rectangle. I bent down and picked it up, expecting a parking ticket or a coffee receipt. Instead, I saw the boutique logo embossed in gold. My fingers froze. "Why would you have this?" I murmured to the empty room. The paper felt thick. Expensive. I unfolded it slowly, my pulse already climbing, as if my body knew before my mind allowed itself to understand. Diamond necklace, $10,000. The numbers blurred, then sharpened, stabbing into my eyes. "No, this isn't funny," I whispered. My first thought was that it had to be a mistake. A client gift. A business expense. Anything but what my heart was screaming at me. I read the date. 3 days ago. 3 days ago, he had come home late, loosened his tie, and said he was too tired to talk. I remembered how I had waited with dinner growing cold. My phone vibrated in my hand. A message from him. "Running late again. Don't wait up." I laughed weakly. "You are buying her diamonds," I said to the screen. I folded the receipt carefully and slipped it into my wallet, my movements too controlled, too calm. That was how I survived things, by pretending they didn't exist until they exploded. That evening, he came home humming. "You seem in a good mood," I said. He glanced at me briefly. Work was productive. I watched his face, searching for guilt, warmth, anything. There was nothing. Only the same polite distance he'd worn for months. "Kong-jun," I said, my voice trembling despite myself. "Our anniversary is next week." He paused, then nodded.
"Right."
I didn't forget. But he had already turned away. I spent the week in silence. I cooked his favorite meals. I wore the clothes he once complimented. I smiled when he barely looked at me. On our anniversary night, he handed me a small paper bag, as if it were a chore. "There," he said. I opened it slowly, my breath caught between hope and fear. A beige scarf. Thin fabric. No brand name. Probably bought at the corner shop. My fingers closed around it. "This is..." I searched for the word. "Lovely." He didn't notice the way my hands were shaking. "You're hard to please," he said. "You always want more."
More.
I nodded, because crying in front of him would only make him irritated. That night, while he showered, I opened social media. And there she was. A girl I had never seen before, laughing into her phone, sunlight catching the glitter at her throat. The diamond necklace. The same curve. The same setting. The same receipt. The caption said, 3 days together, and he already spoils me. 3 days. My reflection stared back at me from the dark screen. I wasn't his wife. I was his placeholder. And something inside my chest cracked open, quietly, completely, beyond repair. The scarf lay on my bedside table like a forgotten apology.
Beige.
Weightless. Worth nothing, just like the way he had been treating me for months. Kong-jun slept beside me, his breathing slow and even, as if betrayal were nothing more than another item on his to-do list. I turned onto my side and stared at the ceiling, replaying the girl's laughter from her video. The way her fingers brushed the diamond at her throat. The pride in her smile. 3 days together, and he already spoils me. 3 days.
I'd given him 3 years of my life.
In the morning, I made coffee even though my stomach was burning. He walked into the kitchen tying his cufflinks. "You're quiet," he said. "I was thinking," I replied. "About what?" "About us." His jaw tightened for a fraction of a second. "Don't start first thing in the morning." I placed the receipt on the counter between us. His gaze dropped to it. The silence that followed was so thick I felt like I was drowning inside it. "Explain," I said. He stared at the paper for a long moment before pushing it back toward me. "Why do you always snoop?" "Snoop?" My laugh came out sharp. "I found it in your coat. You bought a $10,000 necklace." "For who?" He ran a hand through his hair. You're overreacting. Answer me. He sighed, as if I were the exhausting one. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I asked. His eyes hardened. You've changed, Dahai. You used to be easy to be around. Now you're always tense. Always watching me. I'm watching you because you're lying to me, I whispered. He leaned closer. You're being obsessive. The word pierced deeper than any insult. Obsessive. My voice shook. You're cheating on me. He straightened. You don't have proof. I pulled out my phone and showed him the post. His expression didn't change. So you saw it, he said calmly. That's all you have to say? You're too sensitive, he replied. That's your problem. You can't hold a man's attention anymore. The room tilted. I was sick last month, I said. You said you were busy. He shrugged. People move on. I stared at him, really stared at him, and realized the man I married had vanished long ago. So, what am I to you? I asked softly. He didn't answer immediately. Then, with brutal honesty, he said, convenient. The word settled inside my bones. I felt something squeeze my heart, not emotionally, but physically, like a fist tightening around it. I grabbed the counter. I feel strange, I whispered. He looked irritated. Here we go again. My vision blurred. The room shrank until the walls felt like they were closing in on me. I can't breathe, I said. He didn't move. And that was when I understood. The scarf. The receipt. The silence. I wasn't his wife anymore. I was just someone he hadn't bothered to throw away yet. My knees hit the floor. Dahai, he said sharply. Don't be dramatic. But I wasn't pretending. My heart was breaking, not metaphorically. It was actually breaking inside my chest. The kitchen tiles were colder than I expected. I remember noticing that detail while my body was failing me. The absurd contrast between how ordinary the floor looked and how violently my world was collapsing. My palms pressed against the marble countertop, fingers slipping, sweat breaking out along my hairline. I said I can't breathe, I whispered. Kong Jun stood above me, arms crossed. You're always like this when you don't get your way, he said. Get up. The words floated above me like smoke, unreal. My chest felt tight, as if an invisible rope were being pulled around my ribs, each heartbeat struggling harder than the last. I think something's wrong, I said. He rolled his eyes. You should really stop manipulating situations. Manipulating. That was the moment I realized he had already left the marriage in his heart long before I discovered the receipt. My fingers curled into the tile. The world narrowed into a tunnel of sound. The hum of the refrigerator, the distant traffic outside, the sharp rhythm inside my ears that was no longer steady. Kong Jun. I tried again, my voice barely a breath. Please. He looked at his watch. I'm late for work. Then he walked away. The front door closed with a soft, polite click. And I was alone. I don't know how long I lay there. Seconds? Minutes? My body felt like it didn't belong to me anymore. The pain in my chest changed, from pressure to burning, from burning to something frighteningly empty. I thought of the girl with the necklace. I thought of the scarf. I thought of how small I had made myself to stay loved. My vision went dark at the edges. So this is what it feels like, I thought. To be erased. I woke up to bright lights and voices layered over one another. She's regaining consciousness, someone said. I tried to move my hand, but it felt heavy, distant. Dahai? A familiar voice called. I turned my head slowly. Lee Min-ki stood beside the bed. My Min-ki. The boy who used to wait for me outside the library with coffee. The man I left because Kong Jun promised me a future without uncertainty. You're awake, Min-ki said, relief flooding his face. What are you doing here? I asked. He smiled faintly. You collapsed at home. The neighbors heard you fall. I was on call. The room felt too clean, too quiet. Where is Kong Jun? I asked. Min-ki's jaw tightened. He didn't come. That sentence settled inside me with more weight than any medical diagnosis. I stared at the ceiling. He said I was obsessive. Min-ki took my hand gently. You were neglected. I closed my eyes. For the first time in years, I didn't feel crazy. I felt seen. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear and the humiliation and the heartbreak, something new stirred. Not pain. Anger. Not weakness.
Clarity.
The woman who had begged for scraps had collapsed on that cold kitchen floor. But the woman opening her eyes now, the one holding Minki's hand, she wasn't here to survive. She was here to remember her worth. Hospital rooms have a strange way of stripping life down to its essentials. There is no luxury in them, no distraction, only the steady beep of machines and the truth of what remains when everything else falls apart. Minki sat beside my bed, flipping through a medical chart he wasn't really reading. "You don't have to stay," I said softly. He looked up immediately. "I want to." The way he said it made my chest ache in a completely different way. "I thought you hated me," I admitted. He shook his head. "I hated losing you, not you." Silence wrapped around us, not heavy like the one at home, but warm, the kind that doesn't demand explanations. "You left without even saying goodbye back then," he added quietly. I swallowed. Kongjun told me love wasn't enough. That stability mattered more. "And now?" he asked. "Now I think stability without love is just a prison," I said. Minki smiled faintly. "You always were stubborn." I laughed, and it surprised me how easily it came. Later that day, Kongjun finally called. His name flashing across my phone felt like a stranger's intrusion. "What do you want?" I said when I answered. "You didn't show up last night," he said. "Do you know how that makes me look?" I stared at the 4-line in my arm. I collapsed. "So you say." Minki stopped writing and looked at me sharply. "I'm in the hospital," I continued. "You left me on the floor." A pause. Then Kongjun sighed. "You're really making this bigger than it needs to be." That was the moment something inside me went cold. "You bought her a diamond necklace," I said calmly, "and gave me a scarf." He laughed softly. "Why are you keeping score?" I closed my eyes. "Don't come here." "Don't be childish," he replied. "I'm done," I said. The line went dead. Minki had heard everything. "You're not going back," he said. "I know." That night, I cried. Not from loss, but from release. 2 days later, Minki walked in with a paper bag. "Hospital food is a crime," he said. "I brought something better." I smiled. "You always did that." "You always pretended not to care," he replied. He sat closer than necessary, his knee brushing mine. "Minki," I said softly, "why are you really here?" He hesitated, then met my eyes. "Because I never stopped waiting for you." My heart skipped, but this time it didn't hurt. For the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. I was seen. Recovery is not just about the body. It is about unlearning the version of yourself that accepted less than you deserved. Minki visited every day. Sometimes with coffee. Sometimes with fruit cut so carefully it felt like an apology for every year he wasn't beside me. He never rushed me, never told me how I should feel. He simply stayed. One afternoon I asked, "Why didn't you marry?" He didn't answer immediately. "I thought I would," he said finally. "But every woman I met wasn't you." My fingers tightened around the blanket. "That isn't fair to you." He smiled gently. "Neither was watching you marry someone else." I closed my eyes. I was afraid of uncertainty. I thought love was something you sacrificed for safety. "And did it make you safe?" he asked. "No," I whispered. Later, he helped me walk down the hallway for the first time. My legs trembled. "Don't let go," I said. "I won't," he replied, his hand firm around mine. When I almost slipped, he pulled me closer. Our faces were inches apart. "You're stronger than you think," he said. "For a long time, I believed I was weak," I admitted. "You survived something that could have killed you," he said softly. "That isn't weakness." That night, I dreamed of our college days, of sitting on the library steps while he complained about anatomy exams, of the way he used to look at me like I was already his future. I woke up with tears in my eyes. Kongjun sent me a message. "When are you coming home?" I showed Minki. "Do you still love him?" he asked. I shook my head. I loved who I thought he was. Min-Ki's voice softened. Then let me be here while you remember who you are. I reached for his hand before I could stop myself. And he didn't pull away. 2 weeks later, I left the hospital. Min-Ki drove me to my parents' empty apartment instead of the house I once shared with Kong-jun. You don't have to decide anything now, he said as he carried my bag. Just rest. I watched him move through the kitchen, familiar yet changed. You act like this is natural, I said. He paused. Because loving you always was. The words stayed with me long after he left. For the first time, love didn't feel like something I had to earn. It felt like something I was allowed to receive. Strength doesn't arrive in thunder. It arrives quietly, the moment you realize you are done shrinking. Min-Ki was helping me organize my old documents when he froze, a thin frown forming between his brows. "Dahai, your father's company ledger," he said. "What about it?" "These withdrawals," he murmured, tapping the screen. "They line up with the date of the necklace purchase." My heart thudded. "That money isn't from Kong-jun's salary." "No," Min-Ki said slowly. "It's from your family." The room felt colder. "He didn't just cheat on me," I whispered. "He stole from my father." Min-Ki closed the laptop carefully. "Then this isn't a marriage problem anymore. It's a crime." That night, Kong-jun came to the apartment unannounced. "You can't hide forever," he said when I opened the door. "I'm not hiding," I replied. "I'm done explaining myself." His eyes flicked to Min-Ki. "So, this is it? You collapse once and replace me?" Min-Ki stepped forward. "You lost her the moment you decided she was disposable." Kong-jun laughed bitterly. "You think you won? She's weak." I didn't flinch. "I was weak when I stayed," I said. "Now I'm watching." His smile faded. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of him. I was finished with him. And that changed everything. The scandal didn't explode. It unraveled. One question led to another. One missing number became a pattern. And suddenly, the man who had once treated me like an inconvenience was standing at the center of a truth he could no longer silence. I didn't attend the first hearing. I watched it from Min-Ki's office, the broadcast muted, my reflection faintly visible on the dark screen. "He looks small," I said. Min-Ki stood behind me. He always was. My phone buzzed.
Kong-jun.
I didn't answer. A minute later, it buzzed again. "You did this on purpose." I finally picked up. "You did this to yourself," I replied calmly. "You are nothing without me," he snapped. "I made you." I almost smiled. "You erased me. There's a difference." His voice cracked. "Come back. We can fix this." I closed my eyes. I don't fix people who break me. The line went dead. Later that night, Min-Ki and I walked along the river near my parents' place. "You're quieter than usual," he said. "I spent years trying to make someone see me," I replied. "I don't know who I am when I stop doing that." He slowed, turning to face me. "You're the woman who survived betrayal and chose truth." "That sounds brave," I said. "I don't feel brave." He reached for my hand. "You don't need to feel it to be it." Our fingers intertwined naturally, as if they had been waiting for this moment for a decade. "Min-Ki," I whispered, "what if I fail again?" "Then I'll still be here," he said. And, in his eyes, I believed it. The courtroom was quiet when the verdict came. No shouting. No drama. Just the soft rustle of papers and the weight of reality settling into place. Seo Kong-jun didn't look at me. He stared at the table, hands clenched, shoulders no longer carrying the arrogance I once mistook for confidence. Min-Ki sat beside me. His presence felt steady, like a wall at my back. "You're shaking," he whispered. "I'm not afraid," I replied. "I'm relieved, because it was over. Not just the legal process, the years of humiliation, self-doubt, and shrinking into a version of myself I no longer recognized." Outside the building, Kong-jun finally turned toward me. "This isn't justice," he said bitterly. "This is revenge." I met his eyes without flinching.
No.
"This is accountability." He laughed hollowly. "You think you won?" I glanced at Min-Ki, then back at him. I didn't lose. That was the truth. That evening, Minky cooked for me in the small apartment. You don't have to take care of me anymore, I said as he set the table. I want to, he replied. We ate slowly, the kind of quiet that doesn't demand conversation. Do you remember the library steps? He asked suddenly. I smiled. You always waited there pretending you weren't waiting. And you always pretended you didn't see me. I reached across the table and took his hand. I see you now. His breath caught slightly. Later, as we stood by the window watching the city lights, he spoke softly. I loved you even when you belonged to someone else, he said. But I won't love you if you don't choose me. I turned toward him fully. I choose you. His arms closed around me, not possessive, not demanding, just present. And for the first time in years, my heart felt like it belonged to me again. The apartment felt different that night. Not because the furniture had changed, but because the air no longer carried fear. Minky stood behind me as I washed the cups, his presence close but unassuming, like he was asking permission just by breathing beside me. You don't have to do that, he said softly. I want to, I replied. He hesitated, then rested his hand lightly over mine. It was the smallest touch, barely there, but my whole body responded to it. No pressure, no demand, just warmth. I closed my eyes. For years, every touch had felt like a transaction. This one felt like safety. You're still shaking sometimes, he said quietly. Because my body remembers before my mind does, I admitted. He moved closer, his arm wrapping loosely around my waist, not trapping me, not claiming me, just offering support. I'll wait, he said. However long it takes. I leaned back into him without thinking. That was new. Trust without calculation. Later, we sat on the sofa, the city lights pouring through the windows. I rested my head on his shoulder, testing how it felt to depend on someone again. His fingers brushed my hair gently, slowly, as if he were afraid of scaring me away. You used to do that in college, I said. He smiled. You always pretended not to notice. I noticed everything, I whispered. I tilted my face up. Our eyes met. No hunger, no urgency, only recognition. I don't want to be someone you rescue, I said. You aren't, he replied. You saved yourself. I'm just walking beside you. When he kissed my forehead, it didn't feel like a promise. It felt like a home. That night, I didn't dream of receipts or scarves or diamonds. I dreamed of hands that held me when I stood still, of arms that didn't cage, but protected, of love that didn't require me to disappear. And when I woke up the next morning, Minky was still there, not because I needed him to stay, but because he wanted to.